Hi, my name's Kirsten Armit. I'm a PhD candidate at Cass Business School, City University of London, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Faculty of Medical Leadership and Management. Today I'm presenting some early research as part of my PhD that looks at hybrid professionals in senior leadership roles, specifically medical directors, and how they respond to role expectations through job crafting. Typically, research about the medical profession and their contribution and role in management and leadership has focused on how the profession itself is making changes, how it's adapting and how it's responding to external pressures at an organisational, societal and political level. It's also looked at how professional identity can change and adapt as doctors transition into and undertake leadership roles. And it's also looked at how doctors might use some of the concepts, the behaviours and the practices of management and leadership in both how they undertake their professional role and also how they undertake their leadership role. What I was interested in this research is how medical directors are proactively interpreting, experiencing and crafting their jobs in response to their own and senior leader colleagues' expectations. I must stress this is part of a working paper and wider research that is part of my PhD, so the sample size is relatively small, but hopefully it's the beginnings of some insights into doctors who occupy senior leadership roles and job crafting. Two theories have underpinned my research. Firstly, role theory, which describes roles as a set of expected norms or behaviours, beliefs or preferences that describe the social conduct expected of someone who holds a particular role. Roles are carried out under the expectations of both the individual role holder but also those with whom they have contact. So others might send expectations about how one should behave in a role and carry out a role. That might be line managers, it might be direct reports, or it might be other colleagues. The second theory is one of job crafting, which describes how individuals may proactively attempt to change the nature of their role. So this is about pushing the boundaries of a traditional role. So it might mean that individuals make changes in how they see the role. So they might, rather than seeing it as a set of individual tasks, see it as contributing to a bigger purpose. It also might involve changing the tasks. So it might mean someone makes changes in the type, the form, or the number of activities that they undertake in a particular role. And it also might involve changing relationships, so making changes with whom one interacts, perhaps expanding how many people one interacts with. And it might also involve changing the frequency with which those interactions take place. The important thing is that this is a very individual level of activity where someone is proactively making changes to how they're going to carry out their role, regardless of the influence of others. This research was undertaken as part of a commissioned review of the medical director role in one UK country. Over a several-month period, semi-structured telephone interviews were undertaken with 11 medical directors, 7 chief executives and 4 chairpersons. Unfortunately, due to the nature of the review, observation was not possible. Data analysis has been guided by both role theory and job crafting theory. I've categorised my findings from interviews with medical directors, chairs and chief executives into 3 different groups based on the job crafting efforts I heard from medical directors themselves, as well as the expectations and recognition of colleagues. The first group is what I've described as the active group. Cognitive crafting, that is, how someone viewed the job, was clearly evident within this group, where they saw the significant opportunity and potential of the medical director role to have an impact beyond the traditional job description. So rather than just having an impact and leading their professional colleagues, they saw that the medical director had a significant influence over the organisation as well as the wider system. Task crafting was evident in the sense that this group had a real clarity of their needs and the support that they would require to actually undertake the role effectively. And this group were active in identifying and acquiring the human resource support and developing a pipeline of doctors who could take on leadership roles within the organisation. Importantly, I found that the chairs and chief executives of medical directors in this group that I interviewed recognised the potential of the medical director role and were very supportive in identifying and acquiring the resources to support the medical director to be able to carry out their role effectively. Generally speaking, doctors, or medical directors rather, that fell into this category were relatively new in post. The second group are what I've described as pragmatic. These are individuals that had tended to be in post for a longer period of time. They did see the broad potential of the role, and they had made attempts to redefine the role over time as it had needed to change and adapt. But their focus tended to now be much more on the professional leadership aspects of the role, so doing what was needed to be done to lead and engage their medical professional colleagues. This focus may be down to the limitations of resources that were available. Many of them reported attempts to grow the resource support within their portfolio over a period of time, but still found that this was actually very restrained and there was inadequate resources available. Interestingly, with this group, colleagues I interviewed of theirs, the chairs and the chief executives, tended to have either none or very limited recognition of the resource limitations of the role, in particular the sessional nature of the support, i.e. doctors that might do 1 or 2 days a week rather than sort of full-time support to the medical director. The final group is what I've described as limited. These were individuals where crafting efforts were less obvious when I spoke to them. They tended to be more resigned to the status quo or were unsure about how or what they could do to make changes in the role to make it more doable. They often faced significant restrictions, particularly financial restrictions. Unfortunately, I was unable to interview either the chair or the chief executives of these medical directors. In summary, however, it's clear that medical directors do engage in job crafting, particularly cognitive and task crafting, in this study. And it's also interesting that the perceptions and the expectations of the role from both chairs and chief executives may be affecting how individuals carry out their role. So despite the small sample size and only being able to conduct telephone interviews, this study does provide some contribution to understanding how job crafting works amongst medical professionals who occupy hybrid roles. It also gives some insight into how medical directors might seek to craft their roles, and also for colleagues with whom the medical director works with and their role in supporting or limiting the proactivity and contribution of medical directors. Finally, it's worth considering the role of the medical director. Traditionally, the medical director has responsibilities around managing their professional colleagues and providing medical advice to the board. This is really important, but there might be greater potential in the role in terms of addressing the wider organisational and system needs to improve healthcare services. Here are several references that you might find of interest if you want to read more about role theory, hybrid managers or hybrid professionals, and job crafting. And finally, thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments on this presentation, please add them as a comment below this video and HSR UK will review and respond. If you'd like to get in contact with me directly, my details are on the first slide of this presentation. Thank you.